The Feminine Nakshatras, Part 2. Ashlesha Ascendant, Feminine Nakshatra ruled by Mercury in Cancer. With Ashlesha rising, the ascendant lies in watery, emotionally rich Cancer. But Ashlesha's serpent energy lends a mysterious, analytical, and often guarded layer to the personality. Though ruled by Mercury, its feminine classification emerges through emotional containment, psychic protection, and relational vigilance. These natives are hyper-aware of emotional undercurrents and often form intense karmic ties. The seventh house falls in Capricorn, where Shravana and Dhanishta Nakshatras shape the partner space with themes of endurance, social propriety, and ambition. When a feminine planet like Moon or Venus occupies the first house in Ashlesha, the native is emotionally magnetic yet inwardly wary. They crave deep bonding but are selective, even suspicious, about letting others into their inner world. If the seventh house contains a masculine planet like Mars in Dhanishta or Sun in Shravana, the partner appears confident, externally focused, and role-driven. This creates a polarity, where the native absorbs and observes, while the partner performs and leads. The relationship teaches mutual attunement, for the Ashlesha native to trust, and for the partner to emotionally tune in beneath the surface. When a masculine planet like Mars or Sun is in Ashlesha, the native becomes more externally assertive, but still operates from emotional defense. These individuals may seem cool-headed or logical, but possess coiled emotional memory. If the seventh house holds a feminine planet like Venus in Shravana, the partner appears steady, nurturing, and emotionally mature. These pairings bring out the possibility of safe unraveling, where control gives way to trust and intellect yields to emotional reciprocity. Neuter planets like Mercury or Saturn in the first house deepen the Ashlesha psyche. These natives are reflective, protective, and often need time alone to process emotion. If the seventh house contains a feminine planet like Moon in Dhanishta, the relationship becomes a dance between structure and expression, where the partner teaches the Ashlesha native how to feel aloud. However, boundaries and emotional hygiene are essential to avoid patterns of projection or emotional manipulation. When masculine planets occupy both ends, Mars in Ashlesha and Sun in Shravana, the relationship can be intense, strategic, and emotionally loaded. Both partners may guard vulnerability with pride or performance, creating a charged but blocked flow. Resolution lies in naming emotional truth without weaponizing it. If feminine planets are on both sides, Moon in Ashlesha and Venus in Dhanishta, the bond becomes deeply intimate, spiritual, and psychologically complex. There may be themes of healing ancestral wounds, emotional rescue, or long karmic timelines. These relationships thrive when psychic safety and ritualized emotional practices are honored. Neuter planets in both, Saturn in Ashlesha, Mercury in Shravana, create a slow-burning but dependable dynamic. The native and partner may not display overt affection, but they build emotional infrastructure over time. These unions succeed through clarity, loyalty, and mutual respect for timing and privacy. Ashlesha ascendants are emotional alchemists, born to convert fear into wisdom, suspicion into discernment. The Capricorn seventh house demands a partner who is steady, competent, and spiritually grounded. For Ashlesha, love is not about emotional exposure, but sacred initiation. A serpent's journey toward trust, intimacy, and emotional sovereignty. Magha ascendant, feminine nakshatra ruled by Ketu in Leo. With Magha rising, the ascendant lies in the royal, solar sign of Leo, yet the presence of Ketu as the nakshatra's ruler lends a paradoxical twist, regal identity paired with ancestral humility. As a feminine nakshatra, Magha channels power through lineage, protection, and dignified withdrawal rather than loud assertion. These natives often carry ancestral gifts or karmic debts and radiate an innate sense of authority without seeking validation. The seventh house falls in Aquarius, where Shatabisha and Purva Bhadrapada nakshatras influence relationships with themes of detachment, idealism, and spiritual eccentricity. When a feminine planet like Moon or Venus is in the first house in Magha, the native carries a strong maternal or protective aura, nurturing through guidance, loyalty, and an elevated sense of pride in their chosen relationships. If the seventh house contains a masculine planet like Mars in Shatabisha or Sun in Purva Bhadrapada, the partner may appear intellectually dominant or ideologically intense. The relationship becomes a meeting point between ancestral selfhood and futuristic individuality. The Magha native often desires loyalty and legacy, while the partner seeks freedom and truth, requiring conscious effort to honor each other's emotional terrain. With a masculine planet like Sun or Mars in the first house, the native embodies leadership, protection, and solar gravitas. However, Magha's Ketu-based identity ensures a spiritual undertow. These natives lead by example, not ego. If the seventh house hosts a feminine planet like Venus in Shatabisha or Moon in Purva Bhadrapada, the partner brings emotional creativity or healing capacities into the relationship. This dynamic invites the native to soften into shared vision rather than asserting control over relational dynamics. When neuter planets like Saturn or Mercury are placed in the first house, the identity becomes reflective, observant, and socially responsible. These natives are often drawn to long-standing cultural structures, philosophy, or service. If the seventh house contains a feminine planet like Venus in Shatabisha, the partner appears enigmatic, emotionally complex, or artistically unconventional. The relationship serves as a testing ground for emotional legacy. Do the natives' inherited beliefs allow space for evolution, or do they resist change cloaked as tradition? When both first and seventh houses contain masculine planets, Mars in Magha and Sun in Purva Bhadrapada, the relationship carries strong karmic magnetism. These individuals may be drawn to each other's power, vision, or intensity, but struggle with ego clashes or ideological rigidity. The relationship either matures into mutual respect or dissolves under the weight of unyielding pride. When feminine planets dominate both ends, Moon in Magha and Venus in Shatabisha, the relationship becomes one of emotional ancestry and spiritual commitment. These bonds often carry soul-level contracts with themes of guiding, mentoring, or mothering one another across timelines. Emotional balance and inner silence are essential for sustainability. Neuter planets in both, Saturn in Magha and Mercury in Shatabisha, establish a dignified, composed, and principle-driven partnership. These relationships often thrive through mentorship, social service, or community legacy. Love here grows from alignment with a shared ideal, not necessarily emotional display. Magha ascendants carry the royal imprint of ancestral purpose. The Aquarius seventh house demands a partner who honors independence, innovation, and collective vision. The lesson for the Magha native is to lead from humility, not dominance, to protect not through control, but through spiritual grace and generational healing. Purva Phalguni ascendant, feminine nakshatra ruled by Venus in Leo. With Purva Phalguni rising, the ascendant lies in the heart of Leo, warm, radiant, and expressive. As a feminine nakshatra ruled by Venus, it brings sensuality, creativity, and a deep need for joy and emotional intimacy. These natives often value relaxation, beauty, and meaningful connection. Unlike Magha's ancestral gravity, Purva Phalguni revels in the present moment, its pleasures, play, and possibilities. The seventh house falls in Aquarius, with Shatabisha and Purva Bhadrapada shaping partnerships through themes of freedom, unconventionality, and spiritual detachment. When a feminine planet like Moon or Venus is in the first house in Purva Phalguni, the native is affectionate, magnetic, and often openly romantic. They seek warmth and emotional reciprocity in partnerships. If the seventh house holds a masculine planet like Mars in Shatabisha or Sun in Purva Bhadrapada, the partner appears intense, visionary, or emotionally detached. The contrast between the native's desire for closeness and the partner's inclination toward distance or abstraction can create a push-pull dynamic. This relationship invites growth through balance, blending affection with space and romance with higher purpose. If a masculine planet like Sun or Mars is in the first house, the native appears confident, charismatic, and even flirtatious, but retains Purva Phalguni's innate yearning for connection. These individuals attract partners who respect their light, but may struggle to meet their emotional needs consistently. If a feminine planet like Venus is in the seventh house in Purva Bhadrapada, the partner brings emotional insight, empathy, and mysticism, inviting the native to deepen beyond surface joy and explore the soul's romantic longings. Neuter planets like Mercury or Saturn in the ascendant lend Purva Phalguni a more grounded, practical demeanor. These natives still carry artistic or romantic tendencies, but channel them through service, communication, or responsibility. If the seventh house contains a feminine planet like Moon in Shatabisha, the partner appears emotionally complex, intuitive, or introverted. These relationships require patience, clear emotional expression, and mutual trust in non-traditional pathways to intimacy. Masculine planets in both 1st and 7th, Sun in Purva Phalguni, Mars in Shatabisha, create passionate but erratic partnerships. The native seeks affection and validation, while the partner may be more focused on independence or ideology. These unions thrive when both can redirect their fire toward shared creativity, activism, or soulful impact. Feminine planets on both ends, Moon in Purva Phalguni and Venus in Purva Bhadrapada, form emotionally immersive, artistic, and karmic bonds. The connection often feels predestined, drawing both into roles of healer, lover, and spiritual mirror. However, boundaries and grounding practices are essential to avoid emotional fusion or idealization. Neuter planets like Saturn and Mercury in both houses bring structure and realism to the romantic blueprint. These relationships evolve gradually, maturing through shared routines, intellectual rapport, and emotional safety. Though less overtly romantic, they provide enduring connection and peaceful co-creation. Purva Phalguni ascendants are lovers of life and beauty, drawn to connection not just for comfort, but as a sacred expression of joy. The Aquarius 7th house brings partners who value liberty, vision, and spiritual independence. The lesson for the native is that real romance may not always look like poetry. It may arrive cloaked in difference, inviting the heart to expand beyond expectation and into soul-level truth. Uttara Phalguni ascendant, feminine nakshatra ruled by Sun in Leo Virgo. With Uttara Phalguni rising, the ascendant spans the transition from Leo into Virgo, blending solar vitality with earthy precision. As a feminine nakshatra ruled by the Sun, it channels strength through commitment, generosity, and relational structure. These natives seek partnership not only for emotional fulfillment, but also as a means of building lasting value, be it through family, service, or legacy. The 7th house lies in Pisces, where Uttara Bhadrapada and Revati nakshatras shape relationships through spiritual depth, emotional sensitivity, and transcendent ideals. When a feminine planet like Moon or Venus occupies the 1st house in Uttara Phalguni, the native exudes warm grace, modest charm, and emotional loyalty. They desire enduring love and are often the stabilizing force in a relationship. If the 7th house hosts a masculine planet like Mars in Revati or Sun in Uttara Bhadrapada, the partner appears emotionally inspired, driven by ideals or service. The native offers consistency. The partner offers spiritual or emotional expansion. These unions flourish when shared purpose aligns with devotion, but can become strained if the partner becomes emotionally evasive or idealistic without accountability. If a masculine planet like Sun or Mars is in the ascendant, the native may display a more authoritative presence, but remains relational at core. These individuals often attract partners who mirror emotional fluidity, creative yearning, or quiet depth. If a feminine planet like Venus or Moon is in the 7th house in Revati, the relationship is deeply nurturing, often karmic in tone. The native learns to soften rigidity, while the partner benefits from grounded love and structured emotional safety. Neuter planets like Mercury or Saturn in the 1st house infuse Uttara Phalguni with intelligence, discretion, and a sense of duty. These natives may suppress emotional vulnerability in favor of order, but still seek meaningful companionship. If the 7th house holds a feminine planet, like Venus in Revati or Moon in Uttara Bhadrapada, the partner becomes the emotional doorway, encouraging spiritual surrender and artistic expression. The relationship becomes a practice of bridging intellect with empathy. When masculine planets are in both houses, Sun in Uttara Phalguni and Mars in Revati, the relationship carries visionary ambition and strong willpower. These pairs often become builders of shared missions or family lineages. However, idealism may clash with practicality unless emotional transparency is cultivated. With feminine planets on both sides, Moon in Uttara Phalguni, Venus in Revati, the partnership is deeply loving, emotionally intertwined, and often spiritually elevated. The native seeks devotion through structure, while the partner brings the flow of unconditional love. These unions feel destined, but may require clear grounding and boundary setting to avoid emotional overreach or escapism. Neuter planets in both houses, Saturn in Uttara Phalguni and Mercury in Uttara Bhadrapada, create slow-forming but stable bonds. These relationships thrive on shared service, spiritual maturity, and emotional responsibility. Though not overly expressive, their love is dependable, wise, and karmically aligned. Uttara Phalguni ascendants are guardians of sacred commitment. The Pisces 7th house draws partners who are poetic, selfless, and ethereal. The journey for the native is to embrace love not only as duty, but as a gateway to transcendence, to see devotion as the architecture of the soul, and to realize that the most lasting bonds are those where structure meets spirit.